Russians are seriously alarmed. NATO weaponry is getting closer. They fooled the simpleton completely. B-52H strategic bombers, capable of carrying nuclear weapons, have arrived near the border with Ukraine. The Americans decided to station their heavy birds in Romania. A total of 2 such bombers have arrived in the Allied country.
This is the first instance where U.S. strategic bombers capable of carrying nuclear weapons are operating on Romanian territory. Keep playing, you impaired ones.
Well, speaking with the words of the sociopath whom Russians call their president.
Like it or not, endure it, my beauty. It must be done. There is no other way.
Even the flight itself made the Russians nervous. During the flight over the neutral waters of the Barents Sea, Russia dispatched 2 of its aircraft to intercept. However, the Americans were indifferent to the Russian maneuvers. They did not change course and continued their flight according to the planned route.
They flew by without entering the Russian zone while adhering to the rules of the 12-mile zone. They flew over, saw everything happening with the northern Russian fleet. Then they flew along the border with Russia and Finland, and then they flew through the Baltic, went through Poland, reached Romania and landed there. And this flight in a calm and steady manner, so calm and decent, even accompanied only by refueling aircraft, caused a very serious fear among the Russians in a very organized way.
Why did the Americans send their bombers to Romania, and what kind of planes are these? About all this and more in just a moment. The B-52H is usually strategically and permanently based in Barksdale, Louisiana. But on July 21st, the Americans did the unthinkable. For the first time in history, the B-52H arrived at the Mihail Kogalnicianu Air Base. The important nuance here is that this base is located just over 100 kilometers from the border with the Odessa region. But should we focus on this?
Well, I wouldn't say that this is something significant. Several NATO bases are being built there in Romania. One of the bases.
Officially, 2 American bombers arrived to participate in the Bomber Task Force Europe operation. This is an important mission conducted by the U.S. Air Force since 2018. Its goal is to develop the ability to operate from unfamiliar locations and integrate with allies and partner countries. And yet it's impossible not to mention Ukraine in this context. The proximity to Ukrainian territory is so close that if desired, this plane wouldn't even notice the distance.
What is 100 kilometers from this plane? 100 kilometers is like us going to the grocery store. Its practical range can reach there. Somewhere perhaps well over 10-20,000 kilometers. I remember it had a record of 22,000 kilometers. They flew around the globe and it has a very long flight range.
And here begins the most interesting part. What kind of strategic bombers are these? Why are the Russians alarmed? Probably the biggest commotion was caused by the B-52's capability to carry nuclear warheads. As for the plane itself, it has, as they say, been through fire and water. The B-52 was commissioned in 1955. And it was not just a beautiful exhibit at the airfield, but actively participated in various military conflicts. In Vietnam, the Persian Gulf, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and others. To understand how powerful this weaponry is, let's give an example. During Operation Desert Strike in 1996, 2 of these planes launched 13 cruise missiles at a power plant and communication stations in Baghdad. For this, they undertook, attention, a 34-hour UF flight. This information is astounding, yet almost 30 years have passed since then. And inevitably the question arises, why are the B-52s still in service and not retired? But in reality, the answer is simple, because the Americans constantly upgrade their weaponry. And the B-52 was no exception. They managed to prepare it for the challenges of modern times.
The fact is, its fuselage remained old, but everything else, the engines, the equipment, everything installed there is all new. They have modernized it.
And here, it is quite appropriate to compare the American with the Russian strategic bomber Tu-95. It is these enemy aircraft that strike Ukrainian cities. The B-52 and Tu-95 appeared almost at the same time. The Russians began using their strategic bomber in 1956, while the Americans, as we already mentioned, in 1955. It would seem they should have similar armaments, but the approach is different.
In terms of geometric characteristics, that is the length of the aircraft and wings, they are almost identical. Their length is generally 49 meters, plus or minus a small difference. As for the Tu-95's wing, it's smaller. It doesn't have such a large wingspan. And in terms of payload, the B-52 is capable of carrying almost 40% more cargo than the Tu-95, the B-52. Due to its long range, greater power, higher takeoff weight, and larger combat load it can carry appears more powerful compared to the Tu-95.
But the most important thing is how much longer they can be used. The Tu-95 didn't fare very well with modernization. Only a few dozen received upgrades. But the situation for the American one is significantly better, and its future is projected to be better.
If we take the Tu-95, its ceiling is probably kilometers, and this one has a ceiling of 16 kilometers. By the 2030s, it will definitely still be flying. But I have seen reports from American experts stating that the B-52, due to its outstanding characteristics, will likely remain in service for 100 years. That means it will be around until the 2050s. It should be until 2052 to precisely fit into 100 years. And I think this aircraft is capable of that.
Moreover, the B-52 can still be improved. But is it necessary? That's a big question. Its radar equipment and communication characteristics are being improved. In other improvements, the American bomber doesn't particularly need much. It is already good for its purposes. One of the upgrades of this aircraft is even an absolute record holder for range among combat aircraft. But if the Americans decide to further improve this aircraft, we will definitely tell you about it. In the meantime, like this video, write in the comments about which other weapons you would like to hear. And be sure to subscribe to our new Arsenal channel. The link is in the description below the video.